All right, so this is what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. It's called conics. Conics are four shapes which come from a plane intersecting a double-napped cone. And basically what it can do, it can intersect it in a multiple number of ways. Number one, it can intersect it parallel, giving it the circle. It can intersect it in a way that only crosses one plane. That'll give us the ellipse. That'll be next week. Intersecting in a way that it only intersects one of the cones, not parallel, will give us a parabola. Both cones, both parts of the cones, two intersections will give us a hyperbola. You will not be quizzed on any part of that, the visualization of it. You will be quizzed on your ability to manipulate equations, and that is why you finish the completing the square, because that is going to be part of the manipulating of the equation. All is being recorded. We're looking. Now, some of you might have done an equation of the circle in Algebra 2, some have not, so we're going to walk through it today. Okay? Equation of a circle looks like that. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where h comma k is the center and r is the radius. Like all functions, as soon as it is inside parentheses, we always deal with the opposite. So in other words, if I look at example number 1, give the equation of the circle with center 2, -3, and radius 5. There's always a plus sign between them. This is always x, and that's always y. And then you simply do the opposite of the value. The x value is 2. What's the opposite of 2? -2. Y is -3. What's the opposite of -3? The y plus 3 squared. And then make sure you square the radius. If I square 5, what value do I have? Boom, shakalaka. Please work on the next two. Good. First one's x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 4. Second one, the center is 3, -4. The radius is 2. Okay, on the back. What creates the challenge? Number 1, when it's not in standard form. X squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 8y minus 11 equals 0. All right, this is the first thing we do. X squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 8y equals 11. Everybody okay with that? You get the constant on the other side. Take each linear variable, cut them in half and square them. What's half of 6? 3 squared. X squared plus 6x plus 9 plus y squared minus 8y, half of 8. 4 squared. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, because whenever we square a negative, what does it turn into? Positive. 11 plus what? What do I have to add to the 11? No, no, because you're on different sides. I would understand what you're saying with that. That's when you're on the same side. All right, but you're on different sides. So what did I add here? I got to add 9. What did I add here? So I add them both. Sort of, except the wrong sign, which would cause you to be wrong. But hey, you want to go with right, you go right ahead. All right. X squared plus 6x plus 9. What is the square root of 9? Brings us back to what? 3. So that becomes x plus 3 squared. Everybody okay with that? All right. Y squared minus 8y plus 16 is going to bring us back to what? Y minus 4. Good. Everybody good with that? 11 plus 9 is 20. What's 20 plus 16?
36.
You now have it in standard form. What's the opposite of positive 3? Negative 3. What's the opposite of negative 4? Negative 3. 4 is your center. Your radius, don't forget, is the square root. What's square root of 36? Boom. Please work on the problem adjacent or next to it. We will have a quiz on Friday on circles and parabolas. We'll start parabolas tomorrow.
When's the quiz?
Friday. We'll start parabolas tomorrow. We'll finish them on Wednesday.
Can I take it on Monday?
What?
Can I take it on Monday? It's the 18th.
Yeah, if you're not here, then you make it up.
Oh,
Which AP test you taking on Friday, Lolly?
It's, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, Rick actually is good. I don't know, it's a long draw. One square is one. You always divide by two. Even half of two is one.
All right, center is 1 comma negative 3, radius is 5. Everybody good? Take a look, see what happened. We'll go from there. So look at what you did, take a moment, and then all seriously, look at what you did and see what you're not getting. Let's isolate for that. How do I get the positive? Stop talking, please. So you're asking me why is this a positive one? When I square a negative, it always turns into a positive. That's always going to be positive, by the way. That will always be positive. Okay, what's up? Good?
I don't think it's good.
Okay, why? So focus on this part. Stop. Okay, so focus on this part, Jay. What's half of 2? And 1 squared is 1. What's half of 6? 3 squared? No page. No, chapter 10. Alright, good. Alright, so I added 1 and 9 there. What's 1 plus 9? 10. So I gotta add 10 on the right hand side as well. You got me? I also brought the negative 15 over to positive 15. Good? What? X minus 1 squared. Okay, the sign of your binomial is always the sign of the linear variable. So this was negative, so that's negative. This is positive, so that's positive.
So why is it x minus 4?
1.
Plus 3?
Why is it y plus? Oh. For which one? This one?
Oh, never mind.
Y plus 3. Good? Way up good. All right, let's do a little bit of geometry just for fun and giggles. Okay? It says what to do when you're not given the equation. Find the equation of a circle with center negative 1, 5 if an additional point on the circle is 3, 11. All right, so here is a sketch of my coordinate axis. Negative 1, 5 is going to be up here. 3, 11 is going to be up there. All right, so that's my center, that's my point. All right. If I drew out my whole circle, and you do not need to do this, it would look something like that. The segment connecting the center to the point represents the what of the circle? The radius. So the center's at negative 1, 5, and the point is 3, 11. Based upon that, how do I find the length of the radius? Up here?
I don't know what's called, but I know it's like, it's just good that, it's like, I don't know,
Find the distance between 2 points. Distance formula. So you can either use distance formula, which is square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. Or my suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, is you take your sketch and you turn it into what type of triangle? A right triangle. Then you use what common theorem with the right triangle? Pythagorean theorem. From negative 1, which is that x coordinate, over to 3 is how much? 4. From 5 up to 11 is how much? 6. If you did distance formula, this is what it would look like. The square root of negative 1 minus 3 squared plus 5, minus 11 squared. That's what distance formula would look like if you'd rather use that. That's okay. But again, what is negative 1 minus 3? A negative 4. And when I square it, it's the same thing as a positive. 5 minus 11 is negative 6, the same as 6. But if you want to use distance formula, go ahead. The problem with me with distance formula is you got a lot of subtractions and additions, and it's easy to make a pretty small mathematical mistake. What is 4 squared? 16. What is 6 squared? So you do 16 plus 36 and then do a square root. What is 16 plus 36? 52. And ladies and gentlemen, you do not simplify it. You leave it be even if it's a perfect square. Because when I go back and do the equation, x, what's the x coordinate of the center? What's the opposite of negative 1? Plus 1 squared plus, what's the y coordinate of my center? 5. Y minus 5 squared equals square root of 52 squared. And what happens when I square a square root? What do they do to each other? Cancel out. My final answer would be x plus 1 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 52. Yes, Lally?
Can you say the distance from now? I couldn't write it down.
Get back to the work for the one you just did.
Yeah. No problem. You just need to see the algebraic work. You don't need to sketch.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you got rid of like the opposite square root, what is that one? Like the arrow line hole?
The square root? What?
Yeah, like 52.
Right, square root of 52.
What did that cancel out?
When I square a square root, what do they do to each other? Cancel out. So that's the square root of 52, so it just becomes 52.
Yeah.
Is that?
You go on the other side too.
No, because they're separate things. Jay, once you have this, the center, you're done with that side. Everything else deals with the rate, finding the length of the radius. So once they give you the center, you know that's half your answer, no matter what. And then you just leave that alone and focus on the other part. Make sense? All right, last problem of the day. Find the equation of a circle whose diameter has endpoints -3, 7, and 9, -7. The -3, 7 is here. And 9, -7 is down here. All right. That line segment, ladies and gentlemen, represents a diameter. All right? Represents a diameter. You know what? I'm going to do this. Sketchpad. It'll be easier to see. Graph, plot points, -3, 7, and 9, -7. Not done. All right. So that, ladies and gentlemen, represents a diameter. We need two things. We need the radius, which is what fraction of a diameter. So we can do that. We also need the center. From your glory days of geometry, where is the center located on a diameter? Oh, I almost heard it. Middle. And what point do we consider the middle? Midpoint. Oh, God bless us all. All right. So, how do I find the middle point? Close. You're going to use the distance formula eventually, I agree, but I'm talking about just distance formula is going to be a little complicated for this part of it. You are going to use that to get the radius, though. We'll get to that in a second. All right? How would you get the middle of two numbers?
Add them and divide by 2.
How do you get the midpoint of the segment? Add them and divide by 2. So I'm looking at my x's, -3 and 9. What's -3 plus 9?
6.
And what's half of 6? 3. All right, what is 7 plus -7?
0.
0. And what's half of 0?
0.
So the midpoint is 3, 0. Okay? So does everybody remember how to get the midpoint of a segment? You add your coordinates and divide by 2. Okay. So now we have this circle. And this is going to go to what Rachel was talking about in terms of finding, I think, the radius. So we're going to construct that circle. Does it matter which point we pick? No. So in other words, if I used A or B, I'm going to get the same answer. Do I go back to this? For the algebraic work, and we realize the center is 3, 0. All right? The center is 3, 0. If I do that segment, how far is it from 3 to 9? How far is it from 0 down to -7? Or, no, how far is it? It's just, distance is always a positive. What is 6 squared? 7 squared. And I'm going to add them up at 85. And remember, whether we're using Pythagorean or distance formula, the square root of 85. Now, last bit of things for the day. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Here's my center. What's the x coordinate of the center? So this becomes x minus 3 squared. Plus, what is the y coordinate of the center? 0. So you can either write it as y minus 0 or just y squared. The reason I bring that up, if you just see the variable without the number, what do you assume the coordinate is? 0. Equals, and when I plug in the square root of 85 and square it, what are they going to do to each other? And I get 85. Yes, sir.
Oh, why couldn't you just do the formula from the beginning?
How are you going to get the center? Now, and Jay, this goes to your question. If you want to use, so you can to get the radius, but here's what you got to remember. You're going to do all that. So from -3 to 9 is 12, and from 7 to -7 is 14. So if you're using the distance formula Pythagorean theorem, you got that. 12 squared plus 14 squared, square root. 144 plus 196 is the square root of 340. All right? Then you end up with 2 square root of 85. That's your diameter. You got to remember to get your radius, you got to divide by 2. To me, it seems harder.
I just didn't do like
But you got to remember it's half of it because it's the diameter, not the radius. And you have to remember that when you do half of a square root, you don't divide by 2. You got to divide by, it's 2 squared. To me, it's more to remember and harder to do, but if that's your route you want to go right ahead. Those of you at home, if you're good, I'm good. Have yourself a great day.
Tomorrow, are you here tomorrow? In your classroom?
During the day or after school?
After school.
After school, I will be here. Right now, I gotta find your.
Can I take that tomorrow after school?
You certainly can if you like.
Yes, sir.
All right. You're welcome. This is your assignment due tonight at midnight. The only thing different is you got to draw some circles, which we'll go through in a second. Make sure you are good to go.
You got a graph?
Yes, it is with. We got some yellows, we got some whites. Or somebody left yellow paper in the old copy. And then really feel like stuff. So here you go. All right. All right. So for the graphing part of it, ladies and gents, what's the opposite of -1? 1. What's the opposite of +4? And what's the square root of 9? So you're going to plot 1, -4. Does that make sense? Now, all you need to do is create a circle with a radius of what? 3. Depending upon your artistic ability, this is all you do. 1, 2, 3, you go 3 up. 1, 2, 3, you go 3 over. 1, 2, 3, you go 3 down. 1, 2, 3, you go 3 over, and do the best you can with a circle. What the flying fish? There you go. So this one's 3 over, that one's 3 over, that one's 3 up, that one's 3 up. That's all you gotta do.
It's like a box.
It's all it is. You're just connecting it with arcs. Now, when you get to number 2, you will notice 6 is not a what? Perfect. So you just estimate the square root of 6 and use that as your radius. Should be about 2 points on it. And just estimate that as your square root. All right? All good? That's how you do 1 through 6. 4, 5, and 6, you got to do some completing the square work. 7, you're working backwards, giving information, find the standard form of each equation, and then 16, 17, and 18 are like the last one we do where they gave you 2 endpoints for the bottom. I will be in the library for anybody looking for extra help, but that is due tonight at midnight. Woo!
Wait, I go tomorrow night, right?
Good night. The parabolas is going to take a couple days, so you won't have homework tomorrow. Because the parabolas takes a couple days. Get that today. It should be whatever it is. And it should be that. Turn it. Hey, can you do like 4.5?
He said, Saturday.
I'm not one.
Yo, Evan Bauer was like around when we got my boat. Was that
What?
No idea.
I'm voting for alien music. I'm not saying that.
Let's see my options.
But like, then again, like, you're not adding your
I'm doing better than that.
So there's going to be followed by all day to be in
I did.
I feel bad for
Me,
you.
What? Did you know like, no, her and Ellie like best friends. Ellie literally came out of me. I know.
And she was like, I was
At Sean's, I was helping the girlfriend, and Ellie got so mad. What?
What's that?
No. What? And then she came out, I was like, oh my god.